Tired of paying 10%, 15%, or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.
What's up, everyone? You know what night it is. Wednesday night, off-centered with Dustin. I was told to rebrand my channel, but a week later, I'm still stuck on Personal Finance Dad. And tonight's going to be a very special live stream because we have perhaps the most interesting man in sports cards. And even though he's not a household name in the hobby, Jimmy Rex is a household name in real estate investing, personal development, and he has a huge brand and a great story outside of cards. So we're definitely going to be talking sports, definitely going to be talking cards, but also diving into his story as well because it is fascinating and very inspiring. So I hope you guys are ready, and y'all already know the drill. Welcome back. Now let's get to work. Let's bring on the guy in the jumpsuit like he's just out of prison. Why are you wearing an orange hoodie?
The jumpsuit, and I've got the Friday the 13th poster behind me. It goes, right? The Jason Voorhees look. I'm doing the Jason Voorhees.
What is that hoodie? Is it like a team or something?
Because Campbell University. It's here in
not Campbell Soup.
No, it's a college, Brad. You wouldn't know anything about it.
No, college is a waste anyway. Who cares? All right, let's say hi to a couple of people real quick. Brian Sherland is in the house. Yeah, I know. Dustin did a live stream. He had 120 people on. I'm upset because what if we don't get more than 120?
You didn't get my invite? That's because it never came. Didn't send it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was looking for live streams on sports card channels, and then I couldn't find anything. So because I didn't search Personal Finance Dad, I was searching sports cards, and there was nothing popping up.
I'm not going to.
Good to see you, Mike C.
You and Jeff Wilson can want to rebrand my channel, but that doesn't mean that I have to do anything. Like Mr. Beast doesn't make videos on beasts. PewDiePie doesn't make videos about pies, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah, but because PewDiePie, you don't know what it is. Personal Finance Dad's basically leading them down a wrong path.
It's just it's something different.
You might as well call it like classic cars and burritos.
What the hell is PewDiePie?
Exactly. But you don't know what it is, so it's not misleading. But if you call Personal Finance Dad, you're like, I'm getting personal finance tips. And the only thing you got right is the dad part. That's the only accurate part.
We talk about finance stuff. Here's the problem. You don't watch my channel. You don't watch any of my content. So you don't have no idea what my channel's about. You're just going strictly off of the name.
About video games.
Comeback sports card, comeback card investor. What are you coming back from? Are you coming back from vacation? Are you still buying cards? What's going on?
All right, that's enough. It's time to remove you from stream.
That's about to break down. Let's move on.
I wasn't ready for a rebuttal. Corey, good to see you. Dominic, good to see you as well. I know you're ready for the cocktails. Dustin just took a sip. This is just for you. Touching my hair. Oh, man, I ruined it right there. Michael Ham, good to see you as well. Go Bucks, even though we have a long off season ahead of us. Michael Stone, thank you. Yes, welcome to the show, me. Shane, good to see you as well. Philly Joe, what's up, man? Good to see you. Haas Bonaventure, it's been a while. I haven't seen you for a bit. Good to see you as well. Hobby Champs is in the house. All right. So we're going to bring on our awesome guest in a couple minutes, but Dustin, we haven't spoken in a week. So what's up with you? Ever since you were publicly humiliated on YouTube and being told that you should absolutely rebrand, how have you dealt with that news, and what's your week been like?
I mean, as you can see, I'm completely devastated. I'm barely hanging on. I'm hanging on by a thread.
Well, based on your hoodie choice, I could tell. Yeah.
No, my oldest son's baseball season is about to start, so we're getting locked in on that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same usual thing: gym, tan, laundry, kids, wife, dog. It's good. Life. I mean, I can't really complain. I've got Culture Collision is in 10 days, 12 days. So that's coming up. I'm excited about that. I'm going to see a lot of Mike and Jesse, Sports Card Nonsense. I think you just saw them recently, didn't you, at Super Bowl?
I saw them, yeah, here in downtown LA. They were here for the Super Bowl. Panini had a really cool event in downtown in LA Live, and I was able to go with a friend there and meet Jesse and Mike and several others. And Sasha was there as well, so it was really cool.
Awesome. Did they know who you were?
I had to remind Mike, hey, it was me. Remember, you were on my live stream literally 8 days ago.
He's like, yeah, you look familiar. I just can't place you.
But yeah, it was cool to see him meet Jesse as well. But yeah, that was cool. I wish I'd be able to go to the Culture Collision, but Atlanta is just a bit too far from LA. And the super chat income, though it is amazing to get that rare super chat money, flights cost a bit too much for me to make it over there.
Fair enough. Somehow you have managed to keep the same girl that you've been dating for longer than what, a month? Right before we got on, Brad all giddy like a schoolgirl's like, I just got a text. I'm like, well, who cares that you got a text? We're about to go on. And he's like, oh, it's from that girl. He's all smitten and stuff. So what's going on with that? Is she coming on later on the stream, or what's the story? Is she taking over?
I mean, maybe she'll be someone I take to a card show and do one of those videos on. Because, last time I had Sherry on and everyone's like, bring Sherry back. And then Sherry moved to Austin. So maybe I'll bring this girl, Kathy, to a card show and introduce her to the wild world of sports cards. And then she'll be like, okay, now I can move on and find someone else. But
you're like, you know what? We've reached the point in our relationship where I can use you for content now.
Yes, perfect. And she looks good on camera, so that really helps. Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna bring on our guest, Jimmy. And then besides that, dating's going good. Not really looking for any other dates right now. I'm really content with Kathy, and we'll see what happens. But let's bring on our guest. He is an author, philanthropist, huge real estate investor, as well as a co-owner or part owner of Cards and Coffee, Salt Lake City. Let's bring him on. Jimmy Rex. What's up, man?
What's up, guys? I got to start out by just saying two things. One is I'm a marketing guy, and personal finance dad is the worst handle I've ever heard in my life. That's the guy whose house, the last house you would want to go hang out at. Like, you're like, oh, that guy's dad's home. He's such a boring ass. That's what I think of. So just my 2 cents there. And then the second thing is I find it humorous, like you're talking about using this girl you're dating for marketing, but every single guy that pitches NFTs, crypto, and now cards, it's like they're preying upon guys who want to be around these hot chicks. And so if I was really going all in on cards or any of these, I would have just 4 or 5 smoking hot babes at all these events, and you would literally be able to sell cards for 40% uptake than what they're worth. I guarantee it. But it's just part of this hobby that I always laugh at.
Well, the irony with that. Okay, so last week, Jeff Wilson of Sports Card Investor, obviously business background, marketing background, basically said, Dustin, I would 100% rebrand. And a week later, Dustin's still hanging on to it. I don't know if it's an ego thing.
It's really bad. Like you're like a guy. It's the boringest handle I've ever heard. Personal funny.
Guys, when I'm the Warren Buffett of card content, I'm going to remember you guys. I'll be calling you and saying like, hey, remember that? I'll be replaying this live stream. All of you.
Warren Buffett invests in, it's all the entertainment. It's Coke. It's all this stuff. It's fun. Like that dude might come off like the boringest dude in the world, but he knows. So anyway.
Here's the thing, Dustin. It's a compliment that you are much better than your name implies. Right.
It's out of left field. It's a name that's out of left field. You've got sports card, blah, 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 whatever, every single channel, comeback card investor. What the hell is that? And then you've got my channel. That's something different. Like, what's this guy doing over here?
Hey, whatever he's doing, I don't want a part of it.
When I hear your name, I think you're talking about bonds and mutual funds. I'm like, I'm not here for this today. But anyway,
it's like, you might as well call it like broccoli and tax collectors. And it'd be like, and then try and make content that people want to go to in spite of the name. But obviously, you're one of the best personalities. I love bringing you on. I love partnering with you on this. But there's going to be a point where you're like, okay, let me try another name. And then you're going to have like twice as many views and likes and all that stuff.
I'll just put like Gary Vaynerchuk with a Z on the end of it and just throw that up there.
Like on To America when they had like McDowell's instead of McDonald's.
Yeah. So real quick, Jimmy, I know you're not like a household name in cards. You have a huge brand outside of here, a big real estate business, and you're an author. I read your book a couple of weeks ago. Great book, especially for anyone that is needing inspiration, needing good stories, good just a good guide to living a better life. But who are you? Like, what is your background?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been called a lot of different types of things. I got, when I was younger, I've always been studying human behavior a lot, and it led me to sales and things like that. So I got into real estate really young. I had done a TV show. I had a meat company where we sold steak and chicken door to door. So I was just in the game. I was just always willing to try stuff out, but got into real estate and kind of became a perfect career for me. And, in my first full year as a realtor, sold almost 100 houses, and I just kind of went from there. And so been doing that for the last 16, 17 years. But along the way, I can get bored easy. And so I coached high school baseball. I invest a lot in different things. So, I'm an investor in cards and coffee, like you mentioned, a partner in that. And, I've invested in over 20 private companies, a couple that really became the grand slams, and was able to allow me to do a lot of fun stuff. So I just enjoy being around people. I love the human behavior. I love to learn more about people. So I have a podcast that, I got pretty big. It's one of the biggest ones here in Utah, but I've had a lot of the top influencers and athletes and people like that in my state. And I did that as a networking tool. So similar to like your podcast channel or your YouTube channel, anytime you have something that has value, I have 50 to 100,000 views per podcast. And so I'm able to get some really cool people on there and just tell these fun stories. And so I do a lot of different things, but overall I'm just kind of got my hand in a little bit of everything.
So I mean, like with real estate and these other businesses and all this stuff, why cards? Like why sports cards? Because ultimately, compared to real estate and these other industries, sports cards is a tiny niche, right? It's a hobby. Even as big as it is now, it's nothing compared to real estate or some of the other stuff you're doing. So what's the story behind that?
The thing about cards that's cool is it hits all those boxes that everybody likes. So number one, it's gambling. It just is. You buy a box and you open it. Like my buddy's birthday was the other day, and can't even tell you what it was, some kind of basketball box, but I bought it for him for his birthday. That's what he wanted. It was $13,000 for this stupid box of cards. And we're opening them up and he's pulling cards, and it's, he's just all excited. So that's one reason that guys like it or love it, is because it's gambling. The second one is it's basically takes place of fantasy sports. So you're watching the Super Bowl. I have a really valuable Joe Burrow card. It's like a 1 of 3 rookies signed, I don't know, something or another. And I mean, I'm cheering for Joe Burrow because you actually gain value for doing that, just like you would, and so it's cool that way. But I think the number one thing is the nostalgia. I mean, I grew up in that era. I remember buying 1987 Topps packs of cards, and doing that. And so I've been buying cards. I was buying cards from 1987 till 1993 or 4 or 5. I was in that era where you buy pure junk, but I was all in on cards. And so there's a nostalgia there as well, but it's just fun. I mean, it's cool. It's a really cool way to bond with other people. And sports, you're watching a game and you have no interest in who wins or loses. But if you're in the card game, then you absolutely do. You're trying to figure out what's going on. And so for me, it is fun. I didn't realize when I first got into it, I didn't realize how time intensive it was going to be. I mean, it's to really understand the game, there is a lot of moving pieces. And so that's the hardest part for me has been, okay, how much time am I really willing to give to this to be, at the top of my game? Or am I just going to do this for fun and hang on to everything that I buy? And that's kind of where I've been going back and forth.
That's cool. How does Cards and Coffee, how does that work? Is that a brick and mortar, or is that explain that piece?
Because there's like breaking, and there's multiple locations too. And then also, how did you get involved as a partner?
Yeah, so there's a couple parts to Cards and Coffee. So there's the brick and mortar store in LA, right there in Hollywood. That was the first one. And they do all the breaking out of there as well. That became hugely successful, timing wise. And just, Dan Fleischman, who opened that, is a very smart business guy. He's the most connected guy in LA. So he's got Dwayne Wade and Shaq coming in to open cards, and Mike Tyson on any given weekend. And so that blew up. And Dan's a good friend of mine. I'd known him for other investments we'd done together and just being around him or whatever. We all have the same group of friends. And so I called him one day because I have a buddy, and this is actually how I got into the card game. So I have a buddy whose kidneys and heart are both failing him. And he's he got some metal in his blood and working at a factory. And long story short, he probably has less than a year or two to live. And so he loves sports cards. So I had the idea as kind of his legacy to like live on. That was the guy that bought the $13,000. We bought the $13,000 box of cards the other day. His birthday was on February 1. But I wanted to do something that we could do together that would live on as his legacy. So I called Dan. I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a store here in Utah with my buddy. How do you get the licenses with Panini and Topps and all that? And he goes, actually, I'm about to we want to open another shop there. There's a guy that's looking to do it. I'd love to have, in Utah, I know all the right people, I guess you could say. I'm friends with the Jazz players and the BYU and Utah players. They've all been on my podcast. They're all friends of mine. And so he's like, dude, I'd love to have you be a part of it. And so anyway, long story short, we opened that shop as the second brick and mortar of Cards and Coffee. But the manager that he had just wasn't the right guy. So we kicked him out. And the parent company of Cards and Coffee he learned a lot of things about having brick and mortars and franchises. It's a lot easier to keep it all under one roof. So it's all now part of the parent company. And they just did a raise. They just raised $4 million at a $40 million evaluation for that company based on how much volume they're doing on both Salt Lake and the LA shop. And then, I don't know how much I can talk about or not, but Dan has
mentioned all of it. That'd be great.
Well, there's agreements with some of the top people.
Open the books.
They're not watching.
On the numbers. Yeah, they don't care. Break down the numbers for them.
Dan Fleischman, who's the main owner, earlier tonight, and we just signed a deal with a guy who you will all know. He's the number one guy in his sport. I'll just say that, from the 80s, and he's doing a store with us, brick and mortar, but he's also part of the parent company. And so it's just this brand that has a lot of recognition, and because of that, can drive a lot of traffic to both breaking and the brick and mortar.
So are you going to be part of the other ones? And the other thing too, I just want to mention the fact that we're at a stage in the hobby where there can be franchises of a card shop. Like as a kid, it's like Bob's Card Shop, and then East Coast
Collectibles. That was mine.
Yeah, it's always like a mom and pop or setup, which is cool and it's nice. But it's amazing that we're at a point in the hobby where there is room for franchises, where a brand, if you're branded correctly, not like Dustin, but branded correctly, you could actually grow this like brand across the country. And I remember Dan Fleischman posted on Instagram something about opening more stores. And then there was a comment where I think he said 6 more locations or half a dozen. And I'm like, half a dozen more locations of a card shop, like that's pretty crazy for one brand, because a lot of them are opening, but that is very wild growth. So
I'm assuming that Cards and Coffee has some wicked coffee, not just cards. Just from a branding standpoint, I would just hope to God there's some good coffee there.
That's the funny part is I'm in Utah, where coffee, like 3/4 of the population doesn't even drink coffee because the Mormon church frowns on it. So like people would come in, they're like, I'm here for the coffee. And we're like, it's like a coffee machine, it's like we do sports cards. But yeah, no, there's already been several other stores that is going to be acquired. And anyway, long story short, it's going to be fun, but I don't know what I can say. So I apologize, but basically they're expanding huge. That's why they did the raise to pull in the $4 million to do what they're trying to do. And they really want, and once you have the stores, then they have ideas with technology and other types of stuff that ends up getting really exciting, because now you're talking, that 9-10 figure type investment type thing.
Jimmy, I've got a question. When you're talking about $13,000 box, and I've watched Fleischman's stuff too, and like you said, like one of the most well-connected guys, in LA. Is your clientele more like higher end, or are you capturing kind of, the middle class folks, or is this kind of more like upper middle class to higher end folks coming in to do this?
Yeah. So, if you go to the breakers pages, like Card Breakers and Coffee Breakers, they're pulling in all types of people. People spending as little as $18 and other people spending several thousand. So the idea is to pull in everybody, but it has kind of been labeled as kind of the more high-end store, I guess you could say, in a lot of ways. I don't love that as our brand, and I think that will change over time, but it does have a little bit of a reputation as, more of the higher price stuff at this point.
Like in terms of buying cards for yourself though? Because like you've invested in startup companies, you've invested in a lot of real estate, so you know numbers, you know marketing, you know all that stuff. What's your perspective on buying cards? Like, I know you mentioned like it's fun, you know, you want to make sure it's fun, but do you run the numbers? Do you just say like, I want to just rip whenever I want, I just want to rip, and whatever I get, that's cool? Or are you like a bit more calculated in the sense where you go, man, I can't turn my brain off because I use this so much with this other form of investing that I want to apply it to everything I buy?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways I invest. The first thing is, what cards do I want to own? When I was a kid, I had my hit list, and I've been buying those. You know, I bought the Ted Williams rookie and the Willie Mays rookie and the Hank Aaron rookie and some of these other cards that I just wanted to have. So I've bought a large group of the cards that I buy as an investment is just the cards I want to have. And I have a theory that, you know, old baseball cards especially are always going to hold their value. So for me, or better than anything else, I guess. And so for me, I've invested heavily as my own personal collection in that. And then I invest in specific guys. So it's kind of funny. So Tiger Woods, I was like, when I first started buying, I'm like, he's still low. And so I spent a shit ton of money on Tiger Woods cards. And then he hit the damn tree like a week later, dude. I was just like, so who knows? Maybe those eventually go good. But I want to invest in specific people, because I believe if you just bet on a few horses and that horse wins, then you're going to do really well with it. But I also think long-term, like my mind, I go, okay, in 15, 20 years from now, what's going on with, how are people going to look at somebody like Matthew Stafford? Like right now, I'm sure his cards are going nuts, but in 15 years, no one's going to give a crap if they have a Matthew Stafford card. And so I stick to the iconic people. That's Dan's philosophy, is buy iconic people. And so we're very heavy on more iconic type athletes, but I also will buy cards just for the fun of opening it, and that's the treasure hunt, right? So I bought a $30,000 one time and opened it, and I got my ass handed to me. I didn't get anything good at all. And I know you don't do that as an investment. You do that for fun. That's kind of like treasure hunting. It's the gambling. And so sometimes I'll literally just do it because I want to open cards. And so when I do that, I'm not expecting to get my money back. I know that that's a gamble that I'm taking. And so there's investing for fun. Then there's investing people because I think they're going to hold their value or whatever else. And then beyond that, I'm just trying to buy stuff that I know I can flip and make a profit on. So if I find any kind of deals, like if you get anybody at 30, 40% below what you know that card's selling for, then that becomes a good card to buy, or even 25% below where their cards are selling for. And so I stick almost exclusively to graded stuff if I'm buying as an investment. As far as individual cards go, because again, I don't want to have to understand the game enough. My eye's not good enough to tell if it's a 9 or an 8 or a 10. And so for me, I just stick to what's tried and true. And it's probably just, I don't have as much time to put into it otherwise, but it's also fun. Like I'll go to a card. I've been to several of the card shows, and I love to sit down with a box and just pull out 50 cards that I end up buying just because they're fun to buy them. I'm like, oh, a Tony Gwynn rookie. I always wanted that when I was a kid or whatever, you know? And so I buy it a couple different ways, but ultimately I do have a strategy for what I'm trying to, like the wealth I'm trying to create in cards. But I have been known to blow a lot of money just opening boxes because it's fun.
What's your take on, you know, Fanatics is going to take over here in a couple of years. There's a lot of talk about like direct to consumer. How is that going to affect card shops? You're kind of more on the higher end, you know, you're well-connected type card shop, but do you have any sort of insight into what that's going to look like? Or just, you know, have you all had any sort of conversation with Michael Rubin and those guys? Or, you know, I don't know if you're in the same groups, if you're hanging out in the same groups, but what do you think that looks like for you all? Are you excited about it? Are you kind of like wait and see, or what's the take on that? I'm
excited about it because Dan's really well connected to all those guys. And so whatever happens, I think will benefit us personally. But I think in general, it's such a weird hobby because there's so much money in it now. And it's so like, there's so much space. Like one of my friends said, the way that you get rich is you find something inefficient and make it sexy. And that's what I think is the key to any business. Find something that just doesn't have all the efficiencies. And I think cards has a lot of inefficiencies still, the way it's graded, the way it's sold, the way it's all done. And so there's people coming into the space that just have that background. And so I don't know where it's going, but I'm excited about it. I think that right now it's, there's like a monopoly on a lot of, you know, the access to get the cards and things like that. And so I don't really worry about it either way. It's a constant moving. It's like real estate. Everyone always asks, is this a good market to buy in? Well, they're all good markets to buy in if you buy it the right way. And with this, I think it's going to be the same thing. It's just kind of adjusting and figuring that out. And, the smartest people are going to end up, being the ones that figure that out.
How does this differ? Like, because I mean, like over the last 2 years, getting in February 2020 up until now, February 2022, I go, there is so much nuance. There are so many moving parts in sports cards. I feel way more confident about getting involved in crypto or in real estate or in the stock market, because it's like a house is a house, right? Yes, there's other nuances. There's repairs. There's the neighborhood. There's school district. There's a lot of stuff. However, with a card, it's like, well, you got the player, but then there's only 5 cards or 10 cards of that player that might actually move in the right direction, and the other ones won't. And then if you even get the right cards, are they graded by the right grader? And are they perceived to be respected? And then of that, are the grades respected? Are those the grades? And so there's like so many, I think, like factors where you can go wrong. You could slip up and maybe have a good prediction, or even I got the card right, I got the player right, I got the grading company right, I got the grade right, but then a lot of those cards will be coming back from PSA because I did not anticipate the supply being growing this much. And so I don't know, what's your take on investing in cards versus real estate and everything else you're in? Because I'm starting to feel like, man, I'm feeling confident going in any other direction based on how many things I've learned from cards.
That's the part about cards that I didn't understand. So I really dove in a lot last January and February, and I spent $100,000 in like a weekend. I was like, oh shit, what did I just do? But you want to buy all these cards that you want, and ultimately it gets expensive really quick to build a nice collection. The problem with cards is I never realized how exactly what you said, how many moving pieces. There's a lot of nuance to this game, which means there's a lot of opportunity if you get good at it. And so for me, I said, I either have to go all in where I'm going to really become an expert at all this stuff, like spend all my time and energy on cards, or none. I'm just going to invest with my buddies. And so I actually flipped my ownership in the brick and mortar Utah store of Cards and Coffee. I flipped my ownership into the parent company. I said, Dan, you guys run it. I don't want to even be any part of it. I don't want to be responsible for the shop, like knowing what's going on. People were calling me all the time and they're like, hey, will you look at my collection of cards? And I'm like, sure. But I'm like, don't even know what the hell I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm doing. And so ultimately I realized that, I sold 495 homes last year, to give you an idea. My real estate team did. And so every hour I was taking away from real estate, was costing me a lot of money. And so I just became a silent partner. For me, it was too overwhelming. I would either go all in and like, that's the only thing you're looking at. Or for me, I had to just go passive. And it's like, look, I'm going to buy stuff that I want. I'm going to buy players that are iconic. I'm going to buy players that I really believe in, that are up and coming. And beyond that, I have to just not worry about it, because there's so many moving pieces. And you can get like Zion Williamson, for example, had a terrible year. And Ja Morant had this amazing year. And so it's like those cards all switched. And I was going heavy on Ja just because my buddy who knows basketball up and down swore he was the better player. So thankfully we have my number one collection is probably Ja Morant. But then I'm also like, I remember like when this industry fell apart because they overexposed all these cards. I feel like that's kind of happening again a little bit. So I'm like, well, let's start selling some of those and start buying some more of the older stuff. So I don't know, man. But for me, it's really, because it's so difficult to understand, that means opportunity is huge to make money in this if you really become the guy or become an expert at it. But it also makes it really easy to lose your ass if you're not paying attention to all the little details. And so for me, I backed off just because I do so well at my day job. But it is fun, man. I just love it. There's just something fun about cards. It's just a really fun way. If you can make money having that much fun, I don't blame anybody that spends all their time and energy collecting cards.
Yeah. Real quick, I wanted to show this chart talking about you investing in Cards and Coffee or in the parent company. Take a look at Collectors Universe's stock. And this was really the investment to make when you think of it. If you knew that sports cards are going to blow up, this is Collectors Universe. Now take a look at the last couple of years. Let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. And you see here, 2019, $10, 2020. So this is COVID, right? Let's see. COVID about right here, $17 is per share. And then now, where are we at? $91. So you talk about investing in the industry as a whole, kind of like how you invested in the coffee shop or in the, not the coffee shop, the card shop, with partners that you trust and you believed in and you thought it would succeed. And then right here, we're talking about buying in at about 20 and it going to 90. And all you're doing is investing in PSA and knowing that they'll have a lot of growth, a lot of cards to grade without being tied to a specific player or set or anything like that. So, I mean, that was my probably biggest regret right here, is not investing in the stock.
Well, crypto and sports cards, it reminds me a lot of the gold rush. If you've studied it or not, all the people that made money were the people that sold things to the gold diggers. It was the guys that sold the shovels and the guys that sold the wagons and all that stuff. It's kind of like cards is a lot. Like, if you want to guarantee making the money, invest in the stuff that's supporting all of the card game, and that's kind of like investing in PSA is, for example, or Beckett or some of these other things. But yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, I do believe it's tricky because we have had a bull economy for 12 years straight in every single asset class. Like, if you're under 30 years old, if you started investing at 18, you've never seen bad investing. Everything you've bought has gone up in value, whether it was real estate, stocks, sports cards, everything, crypto, everything's at this peak. And so it's like, I want to see what'll happen to cards if the market tanks, like when either the stock market or real estate or whatever, it really has some tough years of, who knows what's going to happen and everything. But if at that point, I want to see, because if I think the first thing people are going to try to sell are their sports cards and their cabins and their boats and things like that. Right now, I mean, I bought a boat in 2013 and I sunk the damn thing. If you Google Jimmy Rex houseboat, you can see the video of me sinking a houseboat.
Oh, wow.
50 million. We saved it. We salvaged it.
No wonder you have a huge following. You sunk a houseboat on video.
Dude, I started my TikTok channel. I wasn't going to do one, but last April I was at this event and some people were like, dude, you got to do a TikTok. Everyone's making me on TikTok.
Can we pause real quick just to pull this up?
Bro, I did. Check this out. I put the video like over 5 segments on TikTok, and in 1 week I had 2.5 million views on freaking TikTok. Yeah, that's it, dude. Here, wait, I got to tell you a story about this, okay? So the news wanted to interview me. Go to the top. The news wanted to interview me, and I told them, I said, no, you guys are going to make me look stupid. They go, I promise we won't. I said, if I give you the interview under one condition, every time you mention my name in the article, you have to call me real estate expert Jimmy Rex. Look at the article, dude. They branded the shit out of me every single time.
There you go, man.
Hilarious. Hey. Real estate expert right at the top. And so all my friends were dying laughing. They're like, you got the news to call you real estate expert. But anyway, yeah, so I sunk this houseboat, and I ended up getting over 150 million views. Mike Tyson was talking about it and the whole thing. But
I gotta go, guys. I'm gonna light my house on fire and put it on video.
Yeah,
be back.
but then you got to make sure you have the branding right. Don't say like TikTok personal finance dad, because then people are going to be like looking up finance tips.
That will be how I take personal finance dad to the next level. And you guys are like, what the hell? And it'll be because of that.
It would blow up. My TikTok, the week I started it, I got 90,000 followers and 2.5 million likes the first week it was up. I had one of my videos alone got over 30 million likes on my stupid TikTok. But yeah, this is the video.
Okay, so how has this helped you in sports card investing?
Well, everything. Okay, so here's what people don't understand. Like, when it comes to social media, you have to make it attractive to follow you. Like, people need to want to follow you. So regardless of what you're doing to get the views, you need to make yourself an interesting person to follow. That's Brad. The first thing you told me is like, when I met you in person, like, I didn't know who you were. I started following you and I was like, what the hell? This guy's pretty fascinating, like pretty funny to follow. So I'm just always trying to be interesting, because if you want people to be interested, be interesting. So I'm always trying to do cool things, and sometimes you sink a houseboat, but
yeah. Well, Dustin, I mean, look, if viewership ever starts to dwindle, just have a can of gasoline and a couple matches nearby, and you know that look, you can just start burning your house down, and as long as you capture it, you have a chance.
Well, you talked about Mr. Beast. I mean, what does he do? All he does is crazy things. Some of them are like ruins really expensive things.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what these guys like Logan Paul. I mean, like, these guys they're experts at getting attention. That's what they do, you know?
you want people to be interested, be interesting.
So the one good thing is that you didn't tell the news source to say houseboat expert Jimmy Rex, because that would be a nightmare if you were the houseboat expert and this is what happens.
Look at the boat, dude. It's totally going under. It's so funny.
So, all right, real quick. This is pretty interesting. If you follow Jimmy on social media, he has a lot of things going on. Like, all right, you started with real estate. You have lots of houses, a huge team, but you also have your hands in a bunch of other things. So tell us about what you're working on right now, and like how people can support you and learn more about what you got.
Yeah. So the main thing that I'm working on right now is my men's coaching group. It's called We Are the They, and essentially what it is I realize that we live in a world where there's very few places where men can go to get community, where they can feel safe to be vulnerable, authentic, and in integrity, and be in their masculine, but be able to talk about feelings and things like that. And so I started this men's group, and yeah, I've got 50 guys in the group. I capped it at 50, but I'm opening up a second group May 1st. It'll be uncapped. We can get as many as we want. But basically, every single week we do a call and we talk about, like, I had on, last week I had on Kyle Van Noy, because we were talking about the Super Bowl, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, middle linebacker. I've had on, Andy Frisella, who started 75 Hard, or, some of these big influencers and people. And we just talk about all this different stuff. And it's a really cool thing that I've actually decided to go full time into the coaching. I'm turning my real estate team over to my team completely at the end of April, because I want to focus 100% on the coaching. But that's my main thing that I'm doing now that I'm most excited about. It's really cool to watch these guys make these changes in their life. And it's kind of the path I took over the last 6 or 7 years to get where I'm at. I'm just kind of helping other people walk through that as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I remember, like, that's what really drew me to you when I started following you, because I was like, oh, you're not just a card guy, you're not just a real estate guy, but you have a lot of other, lot of depth. And a couple of months ago, some of you guys in the comment section might have remembered, but when I made a pivot this year, I said, I don't want to be doing the videos because I'm getting really burnt out of just staring at a laptop, putting out content that isn't really fueling me anymore. But I started an accountability group, and I had about 21, 22 guys that reached out that expressed interest in having weekly calls and supporting each other and challenging each other to man up, when we would fall short on our own without, the support system in place. And right now there's 4 guys I'm working with every Monday for the next, it's been about 3 weeks, for the next 5 weeks. And it's been incredibly fulfilling. And the cool thing is that at the end of the day, this hobby is 90% male, and we all got goals, health related, relationship related, finance related, all these things. And so it's really cool to be able to work with other people in this space and use cards as a really cool icebreaker to get to know one another on a deeper level and to offer that support. So that's actually been the most fulfilling thing I've done so far to date.
So how come, Brad, how come you're not video, like, taping when you're screaming at the top of your lungs at your men's group? Like, guys, do better. Say it back to me. Now, how come you're not making a video and putting that out?
That'll be part of the marketing video for the second round. If you'd like to be verbally abused by the comeback card investor, sign up here.
Well, that's what's cool though about this space is I'll give you a quick example from tonight. I just got a call from one of my guys, and long story short, we did an event in December, and part of it was a call to integrity, and he had some things he had to talk to his now wife about, and to get into integrity, and he did, and shit hit the fan. And just this week, somebody started sending anonymous texts out to everybody in his phone somehow. It was like, this guy is not who you think he is. He cheated on his wife, and you guys all need to know. And it went to like 25 guys in the group. And I was talking to him tonight, and things are going well. He's kind of worked some things out with, he's trying to get back to that place. And he said, dude, the thing that's helped me the most is whoever sent out these random texts, these anonymous texts to all the guys in the group, every guy in the group was messaging me back and giving me support. And so instead of like us, like, oh my gosh, that guy's such a bad person, he's like, it's really been nice to have the support of the guys that they're loving me through this as I try to get back into integrity. And it's really been able to help. And it's just one example, but it's just a cool way for us to be there for each other, to help each other, because life can be a little bit of a bitch sometimes. And so it's just nice to have a community. And that's what we've done here in Utah really well, is we have a really cool community of guys that like support each other, that really show up for each other. And so I'm just trying to create that for other people that are out there that are looking for that space.
It's very cool. And yeah, we'll link your website and Instagram below for anyone that's interested in that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, we're all guys. This is kind of a fraternity. Like sports cards are kind of a fraternity in a way because not everyone's involved. You know, there's a lot of people that love sports, but sports cards specifically is still very niche out of everyone that loves sports. And I definitely feel like there's a frat vibe to this hobby. And I think there's space for us to get to know one another beyond just who do you collect, what players, what are you investing in, stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that, really, even maybe offering something like that in the future for the card community. So we can, I think of it this way. If there's someone out there that could be your client or could help you in your career and you can make more money, then those are better cards that you can buy now, like just from like a superficial level like that.
My number one favorite thing about cards is the bond that it creates with fathers and sons. I mean, it just does. There's a really cool part of cards that brings that in. And, that's the part that I think where you're talking about, like, we all have that in common. We all want to create those bonds and, tighter relationships with kids and family and things like that. And so I do believe that, most of the guys in this space, in the card space, would love to have those opportunities with, to just create an environment where they all can feel like they have that community of people like-minded, trying to be great dads and fathers.
Speaking of dads, Dustin, you have a bunch of kids.
I do. I have to wake up and be excellent every day. That's how it, you have to show up every day.
Do any of your kids collect or interested? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So my oldest is starting to kind of get into more of what I'm doing. He's starting to show more interest. He's starting to show more interest in it. And then my youngest, he likes Pokemon cards. He just turned 7. So he's got some of his own Pokemon cards that he picked up at a show and he goes through. He has autism. My youngest has autism. So he does a lot of the organization with, it's more about, he does like a few of the characters, but it's more about organizing them a certain way, keeping them in good condition and stuff like that. But so yeah, I would say, they're both in it in different ways. And then my daughters are not really as much interested. They're more interested in the YouTube part of like, Dad's on YouTube. That's awesome. But
who's the personal finance dad?
They're like, Dad, I don't care what these idiots say. Your channel name is amazing. So
now can I have $10?
Yeah. If you're the personal finance dad, why don't you personally finance me for a minute?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why they do like it, because they are being personally financed.
That's it. Well, they know who they have to kiss up to. Drew, I thought about this. I was like, I don't even want any autographed Tom Brady or Rob Gronkowski cards or anyone that's alive, really, just because I want to get to the point where I'm talking to them in person and I could have their autographs. I've actually thought about that, saying, no, I don't want a Tom Brady autographed card. I want to get to the point in my career in something of impact to the point where I'm having a meal with Tom Brady and I could ask him for a photo or an autograph. But that's obviously a goal, but I've thought about that myself. And, I live in LA. I'm surrounded by people in the media and who knows? But the point is I have thought about that. Okay. No cult, not yet. So
we're building up to that. We're not there yet. Yeah, Brad's still working on it.
Still working on it. All right. You must have seen the Super Bowl. Were you here for the Super Bowl? Because I know you went a couple years ago.
So I've been to 2 Super Bowls. In fact, Kyle got me field passes one year when they beat the Falcons, came back and won the Patriots. That was the best night of my life. But I got to go on the field and hang out with everybody and go to the after party and everything. But no, this year I went to a mastermind a guy named Aubrey Marcus does. And it was kind of funny because it was a very spiritual, I guess you could say, mastermind, and not very many football types there. And so, there you go, on the day on your life. So Aubrey's a buddy of mine, so I was spending it with him. And we did this party. There was 100 of us. And I got a picture. I'd have to show it to you, but it's so funny. There's literally like 100 chairs set up, and there's 4 of us watching the game. It's the middle of the second quarter. This is not like a kickoff. They were all outside, just like getting grounded with the universe and stuff. But so I ended up kind of watching it at a weird place this year, but it was fun.
What's your relationship with Utah Jazz players? Because you're saying, like, I know some Utah Jazz players, and like, I mean, now that Fanatics is getting involved with the players, do you know any players or any excitement on their front? Because I think that's going to be a pretty big aspect to what Fanatics is bringing, is that if players can hype the hobby as a whole, I mean, that opens a whole nother level of marketing and fan base.
Yeah. So back 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when I was throwing a lot of parties, the players would call me to throw a party for them. And so I threw a lot of parties for the players and got to know each other pretty well that way. If you Google Jimmy Rex, Donovan Mitchell, so he, one day on Twitter, he put out,
you didn't burn his house. You didn't sink his houseboat, did you?
Pretty good too, though. He's like, he put on Twitter, he's like, yo, where's the barbecue at tomorrow? I might stop by. And it kind of blew up. Everyone's like, is Donovan going to crash a barbecue? We'd already set up a party with the Jazz players with like 100 hot women. And so it was pretty funny. So he ends up coming to the party and somebody got a picture of it and it went viral. It was like the lead story on SportsCenter. Everybody's like, Donovan Mitchell crashes random party. And like, it was not random at all, but it was just really funny. And so I did the same thing where they had to call me real estate expert Jimmy Rex, but we did it. The news came and covered it and everything, but it was the lead story on SportsCenter. It was a slow day, apparently. It was on a July 4th party. But
what are you wearing
right now?
Is it? No, obviously not. No, in the picture, because I don't know if this is you.
I don't know what you're looking at.
Okay, hold on a second. Is that you right there?
Okay, that's my buddy Bo. So yeah.
Okay.
So the article though, and then if you click on the actual article, it'll say, yeah, look again, real estate expert Jimmy Rex. How funny is that? The news literally will do whatever you ask them to for a story. But and so anyway, so I got to become really good friends with all the players and stuff. We had a lot of parties together and whatnot. And then ultimately, that's how I got to know all them. But
so are any players
you put out? Like, it was so funny. They acted like it was this random crashing of a party. I got video of the party. There's like literally like 120 women and like 10 dudes. But
well, I got to be invited next time. Are
you, dude? Your Bumble date.
Hey, I'll bring her. Are you familiar with any players being interested in cards, like in Utah? Like, what are you hearing from that side?
Most of them are pretty interested. They're pretty aware of what's going on. They're pretty interested. In fact, Donovan was the one that told my buddy Zach, the one I was partnering with on the card, why we were getting into it. He's the one that told him, like, yo, you guys need to get into this. So they're very aware of it. Yes.
Dustin, what about you, man? You're just chilling. You're just chilling in your orange hoodie.
I'm just taking it all in. I'm taking it all in.
I think in Dustin's mind, he's living vicariously through your stories.
I've just had I've had a crazy life, man.
I've had some good parties in my day. It hasn't been all kids all the time, but yeah, no. I like hearing the stories though. Good stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, like I reached out to Jimmy when I saw his Instagram. I was like, man, I know Andy Frisell. Like, I know of Andy Frisell. I follow him and of Aubrey Marcus and the crowd you're around. And it's like, it's men that I look up to in a lot of ways, because it's not just successful in career, but it's also preaching, quality values in terms of relationship, in terms of growth, in terms of contribution, philanthropy, which we haven't touched on. And I definitely want to commend you for the philanthropy you've done, and also ask you what you have done and what you're pursuing now, because I thought that was one of the most impressive parts. And if you go to Jimmy's Instagram, you see the $100 tip club, and you see a lot of the other things that he's doing on a daily and weekly basis. But I mean, what tell us a bit about what you're giving, because you've earned a lot of money, you've had a lot of success in different endeavors, but like, what are you doing to impact your community and the world, really?
Yeah, no, we try to do a lot of fun stuff. It's funny because it's so fun to do some of this stuff, to give away a lot of money and things like that. So we do this thing called the $100 dinner club that's transformed into the $1,000 dinner club. And what it is every single week we were getting together during the pandemic, and we'd pick a restaurant that was struggling, and everybody would bring either $100 or $1,000, depends on what we were doing. And then you tip the waitress with all of it. So we're leaving these ginormous tips, several $1,000s every time. We're actually doing one on March 2nd here in Utah. Our goal is to get 70 people, and it's $1,000 a pop. And we're going to drop $70,000 on the waiter and waitress, whoever serves us. And so it's just a cool way to give back, to try to just make people's lives a little bit better. I've done a lot of stuff with a group called Operation Underground Railroad. I don't know if that's what you're referencing, but they go undercover and help rescue kids being sex trafficked. And I've had the chance to go on 12 of those operations undercover. And work and doing that, and just a bunch of cool stuff like that. I mean, it's just a fun way to live, man. It's anybody that says money doesn't buy you happiness is never given enough of it away, I think, because it's pretty dang fun to, and, you know, ultimately you end up attracting like-minded people. So like when I started the $100 Dinner Club, I knew it would attract. Every single week I was meeting these amazing people that were coming from a heart space, that were coming from contribution and charity, that wanted to do the same thing. And so I ended up meeting all these amazing people. I think I did it at one point, we did it like 28 weeks in a row. And I felt like I had hundreds of new friends that I'd met that were just very like-minded, wanting to serve the community, wanting to help people that were struggling during the pandemic. And so it's just been a fun way to kind of do things and give back. We do a lot of giveaways with the card shop, and you know, like giving away a lot of really cool cards and shoes and things like that. A lot of the stuff that we do to, and every time you do those kinds of things, like there's just a karma to life, and it always comes back 10 times. And so that's one of the things I always tell everybody is make sure that you're, you know, paying attention to the people that maybe need a little bit extra. And it's cool. Like yesterday, it was a Valentine's Day. It was in Target, and I was just standing there in line, and I was with a couple of friends. I got back. I said, "Hey," and we were at the checkout, the self-checkout. There's like 8 people, and I go, "I'm just buying everybody's stuff for Valentine's today." And this lady comes up and she gives me a giant hug. She goes, "Thank you so much. I broke up with my boyfriend 2 weeks ago, and this is the only Valentine I'm getting." And this other guy that was in line, he bought these little Valentine's cards, and he got back in line. I thought it was so funny. He grabbed a dozen roses that were sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, I know I wasn't in line, but my girlfriend works at a bar, and I only got these cards because she wants to give something away to her clients or customers today at the bar, and I didn't have money for the flowers, but if you're buying them, I can give her those." I'm like, "Of course, bro." And so he buys these flowers, and then, you know, ends up giving them to his girlfriend, who's giving them away at the bar. It's just a cool way to spread goodness. Like there's so much good out there. And so I just look for opportunities. And, you know, my coaching program is called We Are the They. That's my motto for life. And what it is I got that tattooed on my arm because, you know, people always say when there's problems or there's things wrong, they're like, you know, somebody's got to do something about this. Somebody needs to step up. And my saying is there is no they, like we are the they. And so, you know, our whole point is to step up and be the people that try to make a difference in no matter what it is.
And I think what's cool about that is that there's plenty of ways to do that in the hobby too, like just giving away you know, like extra cards there, you know, when you ship out. I mean, I did this very beginning. I've stopped doing it just out of laziness, if I'm being honest. When I would sell some cards on eBay, I would throw in a couple of cheap ones, like just base cards as well, just as like that little surprise bonus, because you already got the card you're asking for, but here's a couple base cards that it'd be, you know, top players, but just not really valuable cards. And people would send them to me too. And obviously, like, I might keep 1 or 2 if I really like the player, but if not, I'm passing it on to someone else. But again, it's just one of those tiny things that can lighten up someone's day, and it's just a pleasant surprise.
I remember one of the first cards I bought was a Yogi Berra rookie card, and it showed up and it had 3 other Yogi Berra cards. And I didn't even bother to look them up to see what they were worth, but I just said, man, this industry is pretty cool. Like I was brand new to it. So I was like, that's really cool. I love that this is the kind of people that are in this industry. It got me excited to do more with cards and with people in the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Drew's got a comment about celebrity cards, and we've heard a little bit more from Josh Luber about. I think he had like Kim Kardashian autos or something he was talking about. Do you have any interest in that sort of thing, Drew, or not Drew, Jimmy? Just being that you're kind of in those circles, you know, with athletes and, you know, with actors and that stuff. Do you have any interest in celebrity stuff?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, you can see, I bought, when I first started collecting, I bought some of the Joe Rogan UFC cards and some of these other ones that ended up, you know, popping pretty good. And yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, why not? Celebrity culture in general is just really weird to me. I like, you know, the athletes, the fun part is that you get to cheer for them. You get to watch them. You get to follow their journey. But ultimately, I definitely think there's a place for it, for sure. Why not?
I'm looking for Meryl Streep autos so I can cheer on those box office, you know, results when those new Meryl Streep movies come out.
Game worn panties.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, dude. River Wild, that's a game changer. I want the Meryl Streep River Wild card. That's what I want.
There it is. Anyway, what sports are you watching? Are you keeping up with anything right now? Do you have any players that you're really hot on, just personally? Like you're like, man, I think this player is going to be huge, or I'm like, maybe you know, you're a Jazz fan. Anything local where you're like, watch out for this guy. He's just really about to turn hit a milestone or really become a star.
Yeah, I mean, basketball is tough for me. I didn't play the game. I played baseball and football, and so I can't tell who's got these untapped skills as much. And so I just kind of take my friend's word on basketball. Obviously, I cheer for the Jazz, but I don't have any pointers on Jazz players. Football, to me, it was interesting to watch this year because Zach Wilson, I actually know him. He's from Utah and, know him pretty well. And it was just a weird year with him and Trevor Lawrence and everything. I was pretty big on Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know, I might have been wrong on that. But who knows? I mean, it's been 1 year. But at the end of the day, I love watching sports. It brings us together. And after the pandemic, we saw how important sports was. People need that outlet. People need to be able to watch sports and cheer on their favorite people. And so I'm very big on, that people should be into the whole idea of sports. But I don't have anybody right now that I'm just super, super dead key on.
I was actually thinking, and not that I believe in Trevor Lawrence, but I'm curious as to see how far down his cards have gone since he had so much hype as the #1 overall pick, and the coach and the organization and everything just seemed to be like in disarray this year, where I'm like, man, maybe he does have a lot of talent. He's going to have a strong sophomore year. And it was such a bad first year that I wonder if people have written him off already. Because it's always funny. It's always funny on Instagram where you see like Joe Burrow, 1 of 3, 1 of 10. And it's like, you always see what's posted of who's hot in that moment. Of course, Trevor Lawrence, all those cards were posted before he was drafted and then after he was drafted. And then when the season began and it started off rough, it's kind of like all of a sudden Mac Jones and all this. So I'm always curious, like, okay, who's not being talked about and who's not being shown all over the place that actually has a good chance of being in a better situation next year. So not saying I haven't bought a single Trevor Lawrence card. I probably won't because I still don't know what the Jags will look like. But it gets, if the prices drop to a certain point, like, hey, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, I think football's kind of fun right now because you got all 5 of those rookie quarterbacks. I still think the book's out on all 5 of them. I don't think anybody knows. We got a little bit of an idea of Mac Jones, but the rest of them, it's really hard to tell. I will say that I've always loved spring training. Last year, I was following it pretty close, and I was all over Shohei Ohtani and bought a ton of his cards and made a ton of money on those. Because baseball is my game. That was the one that I was, played and coached and everything else. And so I'm a little sad there's no spring training probably this year because that gave me a lot of insight on who to buy the last few years. But I don't know, man. It'll be we'll see. Hopefully we have a baseball season, I guess, if anything. But
there were a couple of questions there. I mean, like, I'm not a baseball guy. Dustin's not a baseball guy either. But there were a couple of questions regarding what would happen to baseball cards if the season gets canceled or shortened or whatever is going on. I mean, there's no way it's going to go up. Like, to me, there's no way there's going to be any rise. But do you have any perspective as to you think that baseball will have a season, and then what it'll do for cards?
I would guess the entire thing will drop like 10-20%, I would guess, but just because there's no interest and so nothing to drive it up. But I wouldn't be – I mean, they're going to play baseball again. I think they have to play this year. There's no way they're going to go a whole year. But ultimately, it would hurt all your cards that you currently have. And baseball's got so many fun young players. I think that's one of my favorite things to invest in right now. I mean, between Soto and Tatis and Bryce Harper and Trout even, and some of these guys, just there's so many fun young players to follow. So hopefully we get a chance to watch it. But I would be nervous if I was only collecting baseball for sure.
It's kind of sad, but the most exciting time I can think of in baseball was going back to Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire's home run, battle back in the late 90s. And that was, of course, like the steroid era, but that's literally the last time where I felt like baseball, and I'm not a baseball guy. So I know people will be like, you don't watch baseball, so shut up. Fine. But I mean, like the last time it was super exciting, I think for mainstream was then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm all for bringing the steroids back. It was a hell of a time to be watching baseball.
I know. I saw that comment, John Wolf, time to bring back steroids to MLB. It's like, well,
out of the league, basically, Clemens was like basically out of the league. Next thing you know, he wins 3 straight Cy Youngs. I'm for that,
Yeah. Just, I mean, who cares? Let them have their asterisks and let them play. Everyone wins. So Anyway, Jimmy, we really appreciate you joining us. Guys, thanks so much for joining us in the chat. We know we delved into other topics, not just sports and sports cards, but I really wanted to bring you Jimmy's story and what he's doing for men, for the real estate market, but also his role in Cards and Coffee as well. So really hope you connect with him on Instagram. Mr. Jimmy Rex, correct?
Yeah, Mr.
Not real estate expert Jimmy Rex.
That'll get you there if you Google it, but otherwise, yeah, Mr. Jimmy.
I want to think about a rebrand. Just saying.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Dustin had the final laugh. All right, guys, we appreciate you joining us. Hold on one second, Jimmy. We're gonna end the stream, then we'll chat with you in just a moment. So, guys, thanks so much. We will see you next time. I got to end with this video.
Tired of paying 10%, 15%, or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.